Hello, everybody. It's Rich. It is, all right, and the chat's filling up already. Good to see you guys. Thank you for joining us. John and Terry, thank you so much. It is Tuesday, and it is what is today? Today's the 25th, right? Yeah, today's February 25th, and this is actually the seventh HomeLab Hour we've done. So, can he make it to 10 people? You're just going to have to stick around to find out. Anyway, it's good to have you guys. Let's see, where do we go? Let's get our housekeeping done first. This is all about answering questions, hanging out, talking about HomeLab. So as always, if you have questions, if you want to talk about something specific, throw it into the chat. Make sure we talk about it because I want to answer questions if I can. You know, hang out and obviously have a good time and talk to other geeks and nerds like us who are all into HomeLab. And as I have been also doing, we have a Discord. It is a great Discord. It is free. I highly recommend you check it out because it's a place to ask questions and talk and hang out and share your projects and stuff with others. So totally free. Get in there and you can get to it from the links in YouTube. You're on YouTube right now. You can get there and then or go to our website and from there question mark success, whatever. Anyway, so last week, if y'all remember, I was gonna show you guys we were gonna walk through the install of TrueNAS scale on the new 24 bay server, and that blew up my face thanks to Ventoy. So Ventoy, have you heard of it? Sometimes it doesn't work. Anyway, so we will do that this show. I made sure that the USB stick that I burned actually works and everything's good. So we're going to be golden there. And but before we get to that, let's talk about the video because that's what I also want to do is talk about the video that was released. We released the video last Friday, I think it was actually, and it was that video I was telling you guys about. I was going to be making about the it's over here in the corner, but it's the that R2 Max from iCool Core, and it's rather disappointing lack of 10 gig support for BSD because it's got those the Marvell chipset in it. It was a good opportunity though to see a lot of other people's opinions about firewalls and what to run on. Since backstory, if you haven't watched it, and no big deal, it's a nice little piece of gear. It comes with an N150 or a Core 3 N355 CPU, depending on how much money I spend. The N150 is passive cooled. The N355 is not. Two little fans on it. But it's got two 10s, two 2.5s, and HDMI and whatnot out. And it's a really nice, well-designed box. They did a good job on the hardware. What are you going to do? Anyway, it's got those Marvell chips, the Marvell 5 for the 210 gig base Ts on it. And the problem is, they're not supported in BSD. In fact, actually someone in the comments had mentioned that it's not all that great in Linux either. I didn't test it because if it's a firewall and I can't run, arguably the two biggest well-known firewall softwares out there, which is, pfSense and OpenSense, it's really not, a good firewall. But there were some people that had some really great opinions. Oh, Terry's got a question. How do I migrate a Hyper-V Linux machine to XCP-ng host? If you get the chance in the stream. Good question. There is actually a few different methods that you can use. One thing I would check, and actually let's pull it up. We're gonna get to it right now, Terry, because I think that's a good idea. So let's bear with me 1 second. I'll pop a shell here. Let me grab some stuff here. Starwind software. Okay, let me throw this up on the screen so y'all can see it. And these guys, Starwind, have a product that you can download totally free, and it is called Free Tools. It's called this guy here, this V2V converter, P2V converter. It will do a ton of different conversions, right? It'll convert from like Hyper-V to VMware, or VMware to ESX, to Hyper-V. It'll do like there's just a whole bunch of stuff that it'll do. So let's start with there. Yeah, there you go. Adam B's already on. So see if Brandon can drop that into the chat. Actually, you know what? Through the power of technology, I think I can. I can't do that. Yes, I can. I got this, guys. Look at this. I'm just going to post it here so that we have it. So give that a try. Give that a try, see if it works. Hopefully it made it there. Anyway, so back to the R2 Max. So there was a lot of comments, and I debated just answering them in the chat the video comments as they're coming in, but it got me thinking, we should probably talk about some of these alternative firewalls that a lot of people are like, but what if? What about this? What about this? What about that? Because apparently there are a lot of different Linux firewalls that in theory, I didn't test them, so take it for what it's worth, would be compatible with that firewall. So yeah, so one of them that was brought up, and I have not touched this, so we're going to look at this together. This is Rich experiencing something through this same time you guys are. So this guy right here, one of the firewalls that was commented about is called IP Fire, which apparently is more than a firewall. So I'm not sure what else that means. But this apparently is Linux based. But the big question I had for this is like, is it free? Is it downloadable? What is it? Out of all the things all the different firewalls that we'll look at here, the one thing that does come to mind here, and by all means, you guys keep me honest in the chat, like this is arguably the most important piece of edge software that you can have, right? We're not talking about antivirus. I mean, the endpoint detection response, the EDR, whatever you want to have on your computer, that's one super, super important to protect you from downloading something or hitting something on a web page you shouldn't have been looking at. You know who you are. And the firewall software really is like, that's a big deal. So when people are like, what about this one? What about that one? I'm like, yeah, but I mean, is it good? Is it arguably any good? Because it's in the order of common knowledge of firewalls, you rarely ever hear these different firewalls, but that doesn't mean they're not necessarily good. It just means you don't get a whole lot of play. So IP Fire is the name of one of the recommended ones, or suggested ones, I should say. And it looks like it's, when you say buy, do you have to pay? Is it, oh, they sell, of course. So you can get it on a piece of hardware. That's fine. Download, looks like you can download. I might try these out at some point if you guys think it's useful. But supposedly it's Linux based. I didn't see anywhere. Let's go to the documentation and see if we can see what it's based on. What is it? Installation. How does it work? What am I looking for? I would like to know. Anyway, so that's one of them. We need to. I should probably consider looking at. Another one's brought up was Endian, and I don't know if you guys have heard of Endian. And another one that I don't want to learn to customize. I don't want to accept your cookies. This looks like there's a community edition. Well, this is community edition. But looks like they also sell. So let's look and see what's community edition get you. A GPL, that's cool. No support, which is what you expect. Advanced content security, no. Like, thing is, man, if you can get pfSense or OpenSense installed, then you can do all that kind of stuff on your own. So that's another one. I don't know if you guys have used or heard of Endian. So if you have, let me know, because that's a new one to me. And then there was what about OpenWord? Am I the only person here? I feel like I'm taking crazy pills. Am I the only person here that doesn't see OpenWord as anything, forgive me, as anything more than a way to take and turn your third-party Netgear router into a, firewall access or just an access point? I know that they're now that you can do this as a firewall, but I always thought that this was like the tinkerers sort of stuff. Like I installed OpenWrt back when I had like older Meraki APs that were no longer supported, and I wanted to like get some more life out of them. Or I had the Linksys, the WRT 54Gs, right? Y'all remember those? Jason, welcome. You'll remember those, right? And that was like you threw OpenWrt on it, and then you had something that was nice. Is anyone in the chat using OpenWrt as a primary firewall at home? Let me know. Another one was Neth Security. Not heard of Neth Security either. There you go. There's an 802.11b, baby. Linksys for the win. We all remember those days. Some of us would like to forget, but they're all there. So Neth Security looks like another one. There's a community edition that just sends me over to, looks like a blog. That's cool. Let's go back here. But this looks interesting. They got some pretty pictures. This looks more like they're going for the Ubiquiti style of how you set things up, right? Walk you through wizards. I hope there's a light mode because I'm not a fan of dark mode. Fight me over that because that's. But this one looks very nice too. But this has got a. Is there money with this? Oh, I just clicked on community. Pricing. There we go. What you cost? Community. All right. So it looks like the community edition of this has limitations too. You don't get automatic updates. Kind of a deal breaker, right? You don't get to their enterprise stable repo. Sure. 400 DP application protocols detected versus 2000. Looks like that 2000's local user max 3 units. So they must have some sort of centralized controller functionality too. No portal. I don't know that stuff. There's no hotspot functionality. I'm not sure what this is. Enterprise DNS content filter. Okay. And free is free. And the, what's this one? The personal version here for home is 97 euro. So what is that converted? That's like 100 and maybe 110, 100 and some bucks. I don't know. Do I look like a financial major? So that's kind of in line with the like the PF Sense Plus, right? I guess that was actually Brandon who made mention of this. That's pretty similar to that. Spoiler: we're all old in this chat. Thanks, man. Thanks. And Romo Jack said still for a Linksys E1200 or 1100, excuse me, 1200 with it. Yeah, those are the days. I thought those were the days. We're like, I'm going to take this thing and make it better. Anyway, and then someone else mentioned Vios. And guys, can we just have a moment to talk about Vios? Because Vios is not for the general user. Vios is not for people who buy a roughly $309 little home firewall. Vios is not for those people. Vios is for people who are only command line only, and that's the way it is, right? So yeah. So Brandon, throw up that one comment about PF Sense. Yeah. Oh, look, it's moving around and do this. I completely 100% agree. It's kind of hard to move away from it when it's doing its job. You know. So a lot of good comments, a lot of firewalls that I didn't know existed. You know, they're out there. Like there's going to be lots of projects. Some of these I think may be interesting to look at, like this Net Security. Where are these guys at? So they're out of Italy, which is totally cool. OpenWord is. I feel like the Net Security guys are trying to be a business. This is Indian. Where are they from? Looks like I don't know what +39 is. So anyone in the chat know what +39 is? It's another country. It's not my country. And this IP Fire. Yeah. So those are definitely options. Definitely options. But I've got this thing sitting here, and it's just going to sit there in perpetuity because I'm not sure what to do with it. I don't think it makes a. Oh, God. That was one other thing that someone commented, and I knew it was going to happen. Someone's like, "Well, install Proxmox on it and run a virtual PF Sense," and I'm like, that completely invalidates the purpose, right? We're talking about like having a piece of software or hardware that's meant to be with firewall and can't do the firewall you want, so you virtualize it. And I would argue that adds additional layers of latency and performance problems, right? Even though you can't get, virtualization is good these days. Like it doesn't matter if it's KVM or what your platform is. For the most part, it's as close to bare metal functionality or performance as you can get. And that's a lot to do with, like VTX in the CPU's features and functions that allow you to do that. But overall, it's still adding a layer of abstraction that shouldn't necessarily be there. So I disagree with that. Like if your answer for everything is like, oh, this is not compatible, but you can run, it's a potato and you can run anything on it with Proxmox, the answer is don't do that. Just get something that's purpose built. Moving on. Yeah, but overall, it was, it's good. You guys, if you know of any other additional firewalls, like, let me know. I'm all interested in it, in doing that stuff. With that out of the way, and I think it's time to try this again. This being, friends, the installation of TrueNAS on that 24-bay host. Let me tell you about the preparation, because last week was an abject failure. It was a really great example of like doing a demonstration, doing the whole like Vanna White thing, like flipping over things in the mirror, like it just the power went off. No Ventoy this time. Downloaded the ISO, which I already had, so technically I didn't need to download it. And I used this case I just used Balena Etcher because I was on my Mac, and I made a USB stick of that install. This is the IPMI for that host, right? So you guys are gonna see my username. The host is currently off at the moment because it's just off. Adam B, what did you say? You said I was thrown into a WatchGuard environment once, and was pretty. Yeah, there's other alternatives out there, but I feel like they kind of need to run on their own hardware. right? Like Sophos stuff. You can buy I think there's a home version of Sophos that can run, but like that's not their main business. So I feel like it's, and like you mentioned, there's licensing and all that kind of junk too. So like it's, you're kind of really limited to like two of the big ones, or you buy Unify and you pay once and you have it until they stop making updates for it, right? That's your other alternative. Anyway, back to the story at hand here. This guy right here is the IPMI interface for that Supermicro server that's downstairs. It is currently off. It says right here, host is off. So I'm going to go ahead and to make life easier, I'm going to see if I can pop this out without having to, no, it's not going to do it. Fine. I will go here, and where are you? Good times. Boop, 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 boop. Okay. You guys can't see this. Let me share that screen because it's not gonna put it there without it. Stand by 1 second. Good times. Let's edit. Nope. It's always something. Present. Choose screen. Choose window. Choose this blank window. And start. Cool. There you go. All right, we're gonna start this up. All right. Power set to power on. That's gonna tell my server downstairs to flip the switch. Gotta love IPMI, guys. IPMI is where it's at, right? Okay, so I want to click here and let me scroll this down so it's like visible there. Click inside this window. F11 is the boot for Supermicro boxes, so you're gonna hear me spamming F11 as I get this going. Shout out Technologies. Sophos let's make the management portal more user-friendly. Proceeds to bury every taskbar in 15 minutes. I feel like that kind of describes a lot of the modern UIs these days. Ubiquiti is also one of those too. Like, it's hard to get to the stuff that you would expect to get in terms of like the traditional firewall functionality, right? Where you're like, I just want to look at my rules. Give me the rules. And the answer is no. No. Computer says no. Yeah. Come on, Supermicro. You can do this. We're all watching. But yeah, I've got the firewall that I built downstairs is an old Sophos SG330, right? But it's not running Sophos. It came with Sophos, and I summarily deleted it because I couldn't log into it. I didn't even want to bother. Go tell me how many menus it takes to get into Sophos spam filter. Quick, somebody who's got a Sophos firewall. Okay, this is coming along now. All right, show me the thing. There we go. Okay. After my Avego enumeration of my disks, my HBA in there, I'm going to take a drink. Yeah, it is, Adam. You're right, 100%. That is like, how much time you got? You can go get a cup of coffee before this thing will get booted. That's fine. That's cool. All right. Give me my boot menu, please. And I did get dinner, John. I absolutely did. I jammed it in my body as quick as I could. Okay, here we go. This should look familiar to anybody who's got a Supermicro box. This is just the boot menu for it. We're gonna go UEFI on this because that is the type of BIOS that I like to prefer to run over the traditional BIOS. And so here's my theory. While this thing's booting up here, my theory is that when I use Ventoy and I boot off Ventoy for this, for the scale installation, you'll see what it does here in a second. After you get past the initial grub loader, it goes in and loads the entire install process, basically the whole ISO for it, into memory. Here it's doing now. So it's expanding that Squash FS into RAM. And I don't think that the way the Ventoy worked just prevented that from happening. Like, it is what it is. Okay. Can we see it? Hey, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here we are. So I don't know how many of you have done a TrueNAS installation before. It's pretty simple, actually. This is going to be relatively unexciting, but for someone who hasn't, this will be a nice look behind the scenes. We're going to do an install, right? This is a fresh install on this box. It's got 2 hard drives on it right now, two SSDs, SATA SSDs in the back that will be a mirror pair. And then I have vacated 12 of the bays up front, which will take my mechanical drives, and they're the 12 bays mid chassis, if you will, are still populated with the 762 SSDs. So move on here, and we see them. They are. So this is something you couldn't do in Ubuntu, which just drives me crazy. I'm like, oh, where do you want to install it? I want to install it on this drive and this drive. Okay, thanks. Make it happen. And just with Ubuntu, it's like, no, computer says no. That's gonna be my thing this show. I'm gonna say computer says no a lot. Anyway, tab down. We selected the two drives, which is gonna be in this case SDJ and SDL. They're both the same SSDs. This is still got that old Ubuntu installation on it. It'll get wiped out, so we're not worried about that. And action. So erases all partitions on SDJ and SDL. You sure about that? You sure about that? Yes, we're totally sure about that. Yeah, we'll just, let's just administrator user. Okay, so look, they changed this. Okay, new for me, new for Rich. It used to be the default user that they'd provide you as admin, root, just plain old ROOT, right? And then they transitioned to remove root and they went with just admin. And now the default user is TrueNAS admin. So I'll be needing to change that because I prefer the old school way. I'm gonna put my password du jour in here. Who's got the keylogger? And we'll let it churn here. So, or maybe it won't be too that long. But I'm pretty sure that it builds these two drives out as an actual ZFS mirror pair. So yeah, actually it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. That's what it is, Adam. That's my whole password is just 1, 2, 3, 4 on everything. Cause I mean, that's my locker combination. Anyway, this is going to take a little bit. So Hyper-V rocks. Brandon, throw that up because I'm going to throw some shade at Terry for that. Hyper-V. Thank you. No, that would be ironic, right? Like, I mean, nobody would be able to guess my password because it'd be like, he wouldn't dare say that. That would be the complete opposite of everything he's ever said in public, ever alive on this planet. That's some reverse psychology right there. That's what we call that one. So this is kicking off and pushing its data, which is wonder bars. I don't know about you guys, but maybe when you get this up, we'll build out the, we'll do a ZFS format of the SSDs that are in there. Why not? We'll go through that process too in case you haven't ever done that before. Here we go. 50% performing post-install tasks. So what else we got? Yeah. So meanwhile, oh, look at that. Just right when I was about to start talking. It's installed succeeded. Okay. Well, I like that. That's what we want to see. So we'll boop. And, all that's left to do is reboot the system. Kind of painless, eh? But, what are you going to do? What you going to do? Now we can sit back and have that, as it was mentioned in the chat, that 4-minute Supermicro boot. Because who doesn't love a 4-minute long boot of Supermicro servers? In the meantime, I have started working on the KVM video, and I will say a few things while we're waiting for this thing to boot up because I've got time to kill. Man, that Jet KVM, it just feels like it's so weighty and it feels so premium, right? I'm not gonna take it out. It's over here in the box. I'm still shooting B-roll of everything, but like it is so. Like, it looks like an Apple Watch. It looks like my Apple Watch I don't like the shape of it's kind of goofy because it's got this little carve out thing and the display is really big. If it was like a cube that had all that stuff and they just made it like a rectangle, I think it'd be overall nicer. But man, that thing it feels premium, and I'm just stunned by it. And I'm comparing that to the Nano KVM PCI Express, just as a inside versus outside, right? That's the whole premise of the whole thing is like, take it with you or install it and make yourself a server. So, all right, we are into the boot process. Well, yeah, Adam, or specifically, I would really like them to have pass through. Like none of these KVMs, minus I think that the Pi KVM, which is absurdly expensive. The Pi KVM is like, I think for the normal version is in the $400 range, which is bananas for that, right? And it has an in and out. Like I really, really, really want in and out. That's what. Shout Technologies. Random questions. Anybody have any spare 1U blanking plates? You can get super cheap ones. You can get super cheap plastic ones off Amazon. That'll do the job. They don't look as sexy as nice metal stamped. All right, moving on. Get in this. Let's go. Yeah, well, the thing is, the problem with 3D printing something like that is that you have a span of at least 19 inches, right? That's what your opening is on your relay rack is 19 inches. So you'd have to have a printer that's probably roughly 19 and a half or 20 inches to actually print a singular homogeneous like blank. That's why I think you find a lot of them just stamped out of plastic or metal and then they're powder coated. All right, it's coming up. IX wait on this takes a while because it's also got to do everything like generate the SSH keys and the SSL cert and all that stuff. You'll see a bunch of stuff fly by here and do its stuff. So we'll let that go. Yeah. Moving on. No, it's not. So the question me Jester asked is, isn't Vios effectively dead? Apparently not. Vios is alive and well. I think it's been fully open sourced, like completely open source now. So there's a lot of companies. I wish I could just. We'll look at it in a second, but it's still being used, and it's used a lot in big corporations, then not so much in like home labs. I knew a guy who was actually part of our Discord a long time ago, and he was a big Vios fan. He actually introduced me to Vios, and I'd never heard of it before. And when I looked at it, I spun up a VM of it, and like, I don't even know where to start because it's got an entirely independent, unique syntax. It's not following any of the what I would call like traditional Cisco IOS-esque sort of commands, which you still find today. Most like network gear that you're running is doing that, right? I think Vios is, yeah, like TGBK said, it seems like it's more for hyperscalers or ISPs, but Vios is the fork, I think. Brandon, check that out and make sure I'm not wrong because I don't want to say the wrong thing because I feel like there was something that came before it in Vios was the downstream eventuality of it. Cool. So these IX server services daemons are starting up. We'll let them do their thing. If we have time after this, I want to talk about like all of the Ubiquiti stuff that apparently just exploded out today. There's basically 3 major products that dropped. Viata, that's it. That's why we got Brandon behind the scenes. Viata was the original, and Vios was the fork of it. So, but I think Viata is dead, from what I understand, at least as far as I know. But it's some serious business. Like you're looking at a command line, and you need to be in depth in it. It's not, you're not going to type show run and get your configs kind of stuff. If you know what I'm saying, from anyone who's ever been in the Cisco era. Okay. Console setup. Not so. Yes, Ubiquiti did vomit today, Terry. Quite a bit, actually. And I have some thoughts and opinions we'll talk about in a bit. But all right, so we're up here. It's functional. Like at this point, I can just, and that's, it grabbed a DHCP address. So I have to stop sharing this. I'm sorry, because that's just the way it works. I can't transition out of these windows otherwise. So I will hide that. You see my face for a second while I minimize this and I open up a new tab, because that's what we like to do here is tab upon tab upon tab. New tab to the right. And so okay, now let me share on screen. Now that we've got set up, let's go here. Nope, wrong one. Sorry. Boom. Share screen. Back to this one. Do you like how I narrate what's going on? I sure hope you do, because that's what you're getting. Sure. All right. So here we are. This is the new install TrueNAS scaler we've got here. Let's bump this up in size a little bit so that you guys playing the home game can see it. TrueNAS admin was the default user, which is new. I don't necessarily. I mean, it's all about security. Changing the default admin account is all about security, right? So yeah, but not to show my old man age here, but Brocade has like similar syntax. Juniper is a lot different because everything for them is, I think it's XML based, right? So you can do, instead of just having a like a comma delimited thing, but Yeah, you know what? Admin is a great idea. Anyway, but the Brocade stuff did use, now I should say Brocade networking, not Brocade fiber channel stuff, because I never played in the fiber channel Brocade stuff because I was heavy into the Brocade network here, and they still use the show run or show MAC address and get those sort of information. Like they still somewhat followed that Cisco language model of like do this, and they used similar syntax, but there was nothing wrong with Brocade. I was a big Brocade fan. I have a coffee mug downstairs with the B on it, and I loved that gear. It was good gear. And then you know what happened to Brocade? Do you know what happened to Brocade? I'll answer for you. Broadcom bought it and destroyed it. But the story was that they destroyed it because they were selling PHYs to Cisco, and Cisco was like, if you don't do something, you're competing with us now. We're not going to buy our PHYs from you. That was the story I heard. But whatever. Anyway, I digress, friends. Here we are. This is the newest install of TrueNAS that we just did. Got all my RAM there. We should have 0 storage. Yeah, we don't have any storage. Overall, I don't have any, like, just looking here, there's no alerts, no problems there. I would be interested to see if there's any updates available after, check for updates daily and download necessary. And yeah, that's my train, but no updates. Yeah, I didn't think so because this is, I mean, they don't push out updates as often. So long story short here, all I'm going to do just to hang out with you guys here is I'm going to build up a storage pool, right? We're going to do a storage pool. We're going to call this SAS SSD because that's what they are. I don't encrypt my drives. These are SED drives, self-encrypting drives anyway, because they're old enterprise Unity drives, so I don't need to encrypt and then have them be self-encrypted as well. Next, layout. I'm going to do, after some thought here, on the D-RAID. Brandon and I were talking about the D-RAID stuff too. I don't think I'm going to play the D-RAID until I have some time for it. I'm going to do a advanced option on this because I want to just grab 6 of these. Can I grab more one at a time? I don't want that one. Let's not grab that SS. That's my USB stick. I don't want to grab the USB stick. Father's types. Can I do it by? Cool. All right. Yeah, we only want the big ones. Okay. Click to add the first feed app. Well, how do I click that? Do I drag it? I don't want to add all of them though. I just want a few of them. Don't take them all. Man, they really changed this. I'll tell you what, guys. Let's see what happens if I hit add. At least 3 disks. Yeah. Drag and drop them. Okay. There we go. 1, 2, 3. And I'll add another one. Oh, sorry. Not yet. I want to add 6 to each one. So we're going to do, let's talk about my logic here. So that's 5, 6. I'm going to build this pool out of 2 RAID Z1 data VDEVs of 6 drives each. And there's a logic behind that. The logic is that in ZFS, if you have a bunch of drives, if you've just got a few drives, if you've got 3 drives or maybe even 5 drives, a regular RAID Z1 is going to give you your best compromise between your loss for parity and your capacity. So, I'm using a RAID Z1 here because that's effectively 1 drive worth of loss for parity. The thing is, I've got 12 disks here, and so I'm going to create 2 data VDEVs of 6 drives each. So essentially what that gives me is, because it's part of the same storage pool, and I apologize if a lot of you guys already know this stuff. I'm not trying to talk down to you by any means. It's just good to kind of walk through and talk about it. But a lot of the times, when you take and you build out a bunch of data VDEVs in your pool, you essentially create kind of like parallel streams of data that can be read and written from those data VDEVs. And this was something that I had learned actually working with one of the TrueNAS engineers way back. It's been years now. But the whole concept is if you have a bunch of disks, and let's say you want to build the fastest damn TrueNAS storage system you can. You've got 24 drives, or you've got, let's just say you got 24 drives. If you've got 24 disks, if you break them into, let's say, 4 data VDEVs of 6 drives each, then you have 4 concurrent streams. Ballers do stripe mirrors like this. Yeah, not me. I don't. But I want my capacity. That's why I'm not going to do that. So I think that while this does cost me 2 drives, it does give me basically dual disk failure redundancy, right? And also it gives me basically 2 parallel data streams so I can write to these drives twice as fast. So I've got 6 there. That's my first. Add again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right, so now I have 2 RAID Z1s in data VDEVs inside of this, and we're going to save selection. And let's see, reset step. Cool. This is nice. It used to be you just went through and like clicked a bunch of radio buttons. So I am I'm quite impressed by the change there. It's just a little surprising for me. Next, I'm not going to do this log. I don't have the disks for it, and also this host has 768 gigs of RAM. I have enough RAM to handle. I don't need additional log. No spares. I'm not gonna do a spare on this one. No, that's not necessary. No caching, no L2ARC, because again, I've got 768 gigs of RAM. That's a lot of RAM. And no metadata. They built this all in a nice little workflow. I like that. Last dedupe. We're not going to do any dedupe drives. Again, tons of RAM. And create pool. Are you sure? Yeah, real ballers have 1 terabyte of RAM. I was stunned that I came upon this 768. There's a friend of the channel who was cleaning out his closet, and he's like, I don't need this anymore. And I'm like, I do. All right, so there it is. And honestly, that's probably all I really want to do with this right now, because next steps for me is I need to export the config out of my other TrueNAS, my functioning TrueNAS production storage. I need to turn it off, pull the drives, shove them into this host because I'm moving my mechanical drives. And then from there, I will import that config, and I will have all of my ZFS pools, including all of the apps and stuff. I don't run a whole bunch of apps. Like I think I can just go back. Is this it? No, right here. So this is my production server that's running now. And I run a 10 wide Z2 array with 2 out spares because ancient drives and ancient, as always, and as you know, Allison points out, like it really always comes down to what is the health of your drives. Like if you had those old, you guys remember the 3 terabyte Seagate mechanical drives that they had a failure rate of in like the high 70s. It was just terrible. So there's that. So if you have high fail drives, then good dibs on it. You know what? Someone else already in the chat has been trying to get dibs on it. So the nice thing about exporting that config out of my existing TrueNAS host is that when I re-import it and I have all the drives in there and it imports the pool, like all my apps, I don't have a bunch of apps, but I got a few apps, right? I've got, I was playing around with Uptime Kumit one time, Storage, which is that Web3 storage sharing system that pays you in storage coin, which isn't worth a dime. It's actually worth more than that. I guess it's 30 cents, whatever. It doesn't matter. Joking. Portainer just for funsies. This is my backup Pi-hole. So I use pfSense PF Blocker NG. That's my primary blocker for everything at home. But I use Pi-hole to keep my kids from looking at stuff that I don't want them to see. So they have different DNS, and that DNS is blocking, the adult things that you don't want your kids to come across. And then that day, we all know what all these are. But so this stuff will magically come over. And because storage, the problem with storage is if you don't move it wholesale, you can't like copy it ad hoc and then reconstitute it. You'll invalidate all of your data, and you'll basically break your you will be removed from the storage network if your data looks at all as if it's inconsistent or been tampered with. So this is like an all or nothing proposition. And because you get paid more based on how long you're a part of the network, if I blow it away and start over, then all of the history, the proof that I'm a reliable node in their network goes away. So that's going to move over there. But long story short, that's all there is that I will be doing with this for the date. I'll move that stuff. I'm not going to make a video about this stuff because honestly, like nobody cares about one dude moving his storage from one host to another. That's just the way it goes. But so we got some time left. I would love to, if you guys are willing to talk this stuff right here. This is we're going to talk about these Ubiquiti products that came out because, as I've said before, I use pfSense. That's my firewall. I don't use Ubiquiti stuff. Brandon uses Ubiquiti. John uses pfSense. I have all the rest of my network gear is Ubiquiti. It's Unify, right? I've got a bunch of switches, big and small. I've got APs. I am a big fan of Unify stuff. Hashtag Unify sponsor me, Ubiquiti sponsor me, whatever. Anyway, but let's talk about these three products because there's some things that I don't understand in terms of like what they're thinking. So let's talk about this first one, the Cloud Gateway Fiber, CGF. Anyway, what is it? Well, it's a firewall. It's a firewall with 10 gig and copper and 10 gig SFP, which is right. This is the. Can I zoom in? Enhance. Oh, it can't enhance. Let's just click on it. There we go, friends. So you get 4 ports of 2.5 gig with 1 PoE. You get 1 10 gig base T, the RJ45, which is, I believe, yeah, it's a WAN port. And then you have 1 10 gig SFP port, which is LAN, and then a 1 gig SFP plus 10 gig cage for internet, right? And power and reset. It looks good. I mean, it's fine. It's that's right. There's also a slot. You can shove an NVMe in this and you can use an NVR. So apparently Ubiquiti wants everything to be an NVR as well as a network device. Cool. That's it. So what am I confused about here? Well, when I look down the technical specifications of this device, there are 2 things that I don't quite understand. Well, one thing, and then an omission by their part, which I don't like. So if we scroll down here, they list their intrusion detection, intrusion prevention throughput as 5 gigabit. Okay. So that's half in theory. Again, we're talking about maximums here. So don't bust my butt against that. But like, it's only capable of IDS, IPS of 5 gig on a max 10 gig connection. Whether you're pushing that much data back and forth is debatable. I get that. But nowhere in this, you look under security, stateful firewall. Cool. Application aware layer 7 firewall. Great. This is, by the way, their new application layer stuff looks phenomenal. I think I talked about it a few weeks. DPI and traffic identification, zone-based firewall, content filtering. Like there's nowhere on this list do they tell what their firewall filtering, packet filtering performance rate is. Nowhere on this or any of the router firewalls that they dropped did they actually say if it's capable of handling the 10 gig connection that is on it. And I find that weird because that is taking Rich 2 Guys Tech hat off and putting Rich the engineer hat on. That's a very common thing to have on your spec sheet is how fast is your maximum packet transfer. So either it's full 10 gig, then say that, or it's not, and it's not great, and that's why it's not being shown. This device is interesting, and I find it a little strange because like it effectively kind of, for the most part, replaces the UDM Pro SE. Well, no, the SE's got like 8 gigs of 2.5. I think they're 2.5. So there's, but and it's it's 280 USD. Is there a PDF? That's a great question. I would love to see. There's an installation guide which we can pop out, and that just shows us how to plug it in and mount it to a wall and plug it in and connect it to the internet and use the app. And you can buy some trays, and there's a key to open it up and push it in. No, the short answer is there is no PDF that I see here. But it'd be interesting. I want to know that. That's the kind of stuff that I want to know because again, they're showing what the maximum MAC table, so they have good detailed information. It's not like they're not excluding. If it was everything that they're excluding, I'd agree, but I don't understand. I don't quite understand, and I don't see why they wouldn't put that stuff on there. So that's weird. I find that weird, and you guys can agree or disagree. No, it's not a new UDM Pro. It is the Cloud Gateway Fiber, and it dropped officially today for purchase. You can add it to cart. I'm surprised that it's not gone because I feel like every time Unify launches or Ubiquiti launches something, it's gone and gone. That's the South Park meme there. Okay, moving on. Next one, the Dream Router 7, same price. It is the coffee can, the thermos, the Wi-Fi 7 version. Desktop 10 gig cloud gateway with integrated Wi-Fi 7 PoE Okay, so it's it's got three 2.5 gig LAN. It's got one 2.5 gig WAN, one 10 gig SFP, legless R2D2. Love it. That's another good one. It's got a power input, and then a micro SD, but I'm not entirely sure what that's for if it's built in. I do believe that all of these have controllers, right? If they have a display like that, I think that these are little cloud controllers as well. So that's cool. Let's go look at the tech specs on this one to see if we get any more information. So this shows a IDS IPS of 2.3 gigabits a second, which I can forgive it because it's like, this is supposed to be something you install at your parents' house, right? It's not something that you would necessarily want to run at home as a home labber, but I digress. It has managed cameras. I'm not sure where it's storing this stuff. We just talked about the connections. Again, stateful packet or stateful firewall, application layer 7 firewall. Basically the same stuff. Yes, yes, yes. Ad blocking, yes. Again, there's no half the MAC address tables, which is fine for a small network. It's 2000s, mind blowing. But there's nothing in here that talks about its throughput. However, on the Wi-Fi stuff, we do talk about throughput. On 6 GHz, 5 and 2.4 shows you their max throughputs. These, again, I would argue that you'll never see in real life, so that's the fantasy of it. That's a good question. The way this is shown, Jason asked Brandon throw that up there, but Jason said he hopes that you can turn that SFP Plus into a LAN port, and I would bet you $1 that you probably can't because it's labeled as that. So, oh, we got a question. Throw the question up there, Brandon. Just recently purchased a 3D printer and have been printing up a storm. Found your Super Micro 2 bezel. Still trying to perfect printing, but thanks. Yeah, dude, you're absolutely welcome. All I ask is that you show me what you make, because I love seeing what people you do. Okay, Terry thinks you can convert that to LAN, and if that's the case, that's awesome. But yeah, I want to see what you make, because I love throwing things in there, dude. It's one of those things. Like, forgive me for being like little like sentimental, but like when you make something, you're like, I'm gonna make this thing, and then you put it out there, and people are like, I like it, I want to use it. You're like, oh, it's a weird set of validation. I don't know. It's just one of those things. We're all looking to be accepted. I'm just looking to be accepted for 3D models. Anyway, data rates. Like, you're showing all your data rates, but nowhere in here does it say what the firewall throughput is. And I feel like that's for a firewall, that's kind of a important thing, especially when you're putting a 10 gig connection on it. Like, I believe that if they're showing the IDS IPS throughput of 2.3 gigabits, then it can probably handle the 2.5 gig WAN connection that they've got, right? That's fine. I feel like today that's a bit of table stakes, because that's not too bad. Does it show what the processor is in it? Because a lot of times processor speed can really be indicative of its ability to pass packets. But so there's 64 gig. They're installing 64 gigabyte micro SD for NVR is included, and that's what they store videos on. Micro SDs are not designed for that. I guess in a way they are, but they're not meant to be written over and over and over and over again. They fail too quickly. I don't see anything that defines what it has. There we go. There. So an A53. So I don't know. I just don't know, guys. I don't think it has that great of. I want to see that. Just show the numbers. And the last Unify product that came out that I saw today was the Unify Express 7. Yeah, but Sean, if that's the case, if they're using that as their IDS IPS is the throughput, then 10 gig connections are, I mean, I guess you really don't have in terms of multi-gig, maybe I could see that as like, you can get 1, 2.5, 5, and 10 if you have an SFP plus cage on it, right? Or a base T, but somebody's going to plug 10 gig into it, and they're going to be like, why don't I get 10 gig? That's all. Yeah, but it's a Western Digital purple. Oh man, I need a soundboard that I can just press a button that goes like ba-dum-tis or something like that, or wah wah wah. Anyway, let's talk about the Express 7. So this is the last thing that they dropped out today, and looks like this again feels like one of those things that you well, 10 gig though. All these have 10 gig, and that's great. I welcome our 10 gigabit overlords. Personally, I think it's about time we have 10 gigabit on everything. So this is only base T. You get one 10 gig as a WAN port and then one 2.5 as a LAN port. But I imagine if Terry's right, you could probably swap these around and change their roles or what's what. Not that if you only have if you have a 10 gig internet connection and a 2.5 gig LAN, you're only getting, a quarter of your actual potential bandwidth, and that feels weird. Anyway, tech specs on this one, same. I'm willing to bet you, if we just forgive me for scrolling down here, I bet this has got the same CPU in it as the Dream Router 7. Show me. It does. Looking at this makes me very suspicious that this is essentially a repackaging with slightly cheaper, right? This is $200 versus the what was this guy? Excuse me for that. Bouncing back first, probably driving, getting nauseous. 200 versus 280, right? So the difference is you get less ports, same Wi-Fi 7, same CPU, and then the same performance. So there you go. Yeah. So where would you use these is the question. I would love to know where you guys would use these, because I don't know where I would use them. But then again, the HomeLabbers typically look at things like this and go, this is really nice, but it doesn't fit in my home lab. It fits more like at my parents' house. And I think that's totally fine. I would love to put something like this at my mom and dad's and get them off of the Xfinity Comcast garbage, but that stuff works. So Adam B says Express makes no sense for anyone other than if you just want cheaper, because it's less ports, same performance as the Dream Router 7, right? Like down to the wire, like same IDS IPS throughput, which again, being pedantic here, is not a firewall throughput indicator. And compare that. So this is also, what did it say here? So 300 simultaneous plus. I don't know where they come up with these numbers. And this one is also probably 300. Oh, it just says 300. So 300 only for this one and 300 plus for that. The plus means better, friends, but that's what you get for an extra $80. But I see a value in these. Like I said, this is the kind of stuff that I would drop at my parents' house, right? Or if someone had money and they wanted something different, I would be like, yeah, okay, cool. This is a good option, and it's not a nice GUI. And I do think that Ubiquiti is really doing phenomenal work in their user interface, but they are really so. I was asking myself earlier, if we go back to this guy, no, not that one. No, let's Rich hit the tab here. If we go back to this guy here, and this price, and the performance that it's got, it made me wonder, like, what is its competition? Who's it competing with? And if any of you are familiar with Meraki, you can say Meraki, it's whatever. These guys, this is like, Soho coffee shop business sort of stuff where you buy the gear and then you pay a yearly recurring fee to have access to their cloud, and everything is cloud controlled. And, actually, yeah, Sean, that's a good point, because I've been saying over and over, this is Meraki stuff. Let's just look at the MX67. Now, I think that Meraki gear is trash. I have to live in the world where I have to work with a lot of this stuff, and I think it's garbage for a lot of reasons. It's great if you run a coffee shop or if you're an MSP and you just want to shove something into some place and be like, good, there you go, it's in the cloud, and you can cloud management. Everything has its place. It doesn't belong in any business that I want to work with. But if we look at the documentation on this 67, because I'm belaboring this, but let's talk about it. They specifically tell you this is a 1 gig WAN interface on this. Yes, I know it's not 2.5 and it's not 10, but they explicitly list their firewall throughput. They also explicitly list their site-to-site VPN traffic on it, right? Because you can create meshes. You have an MX75. I mean, good. I still... the problem with the Meraki stuff for me is that it is only... It's a company with some really weird... Like, I look at the Meraki gear, and Meraki got their start as wireless only. They were going to be enterprise wireless on the cheap. They had a cloud controller, and they really do Wi-Fi really great. Like their core business was Wi-Fi, and man, they knocked that crap out of the park. Then Cisco bought them, and Cisco's like, no, 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 no. We're going to make you more than that. And of course, but they sell, and I wanted to show these, but apparently I don't get to just show stuff anymore because they make switch gear, and their switch gear is just, the software is terrible. The software is terrible. What do I mean by software? I don't mean the cloud stuff, because everything's hidden behind their cloud UI, cloud management thing. The license cost, the cost is one thing. You also pay for that. But Sean, if you've ever been in a situation where your Meraki gear has gone offline and has crashed for whatever reason, and you're like, well, I need to work today, so I'm going to reboot it to get it up and functional. And when you do, you call into Meraki support and they say, is it down right now? And you'll say, no, I had to reboot it to get up and running because it crashed. And they'll say, well, then we can't help you because the logs are ephemeral. And when you rebooted it, it wiped out the logs because it doesn't store them in persistence. So, and you're like, cool, I guess I'll just hang up now because you won't help me. And they're like, sorry, just make sure to call us back. Like I have been, friends, in an enterprise environment where a switch that was handling core network had gone offline. It was a Meraki switch. That's a key thing here. And it was offline. It took the whole business down because it was, I don't want to call it a core switch because that would be giving it way too much credit. It was a layer 3 switch though. And we had to reboot it because the business had to operate. And so we called up Meraki after we had reestablished functionality and said, this thing just went offline. It took down the whole network. And they told us point blank, without logs, without it being down in that state, we cannot help you. Call us next time when it's offline. I was like, this is not business. This is not how you do things. Anyway, so Meraki makes switches too. But I off on a tangent. So back to these. So you said you had an MX75. Let's scroll down and find out what sort of fresh hell you live under. Oh, they were here somewhere. See the demo. No, I want to see the gear models. Jesus, guys, it's right there. Why didn't you say something? MX75. Okay, so you got this. This is a flagship small branch. What do you got here? 1 gigabit firewall throughput. So this one, again, let's look at it because I want to see what it's. Show me the specs. Show me your specs. Show me those specs. Specs. Can you not show me the damn specs? Can you just show me the specs? Highlights. Okay. It's got 1 gig. It's got 10 gig LAN. Interesting. 1 gigabit firewall throughput. Again, they state it on their site. Why doesn't this state it on their site? Not saying it's not true. Just saying. Wait. Hold on. You said I skipped it. Where did I skip it? Oh. On the Meraki side, is that what you're saying I skipped it? I want to try to find this. I know that they have a... Oh, there's a data sheet right there. Let's enhance. Enhance. All right. Looking through this. Okay, that's the big one. I want to see the little one. Show me the little ones. I want the big ones. Okay, yes, they can have modems, LTE modems. That's right. They can have... There should be a... There we go. Okay, so that's 67. 75. 200 users, 1 gigabit NGF, advanced security throughput. So I'm assuming you're saying this is their IDS IPS. I mean, even if that's the case, they're saying 1 gig. So maybe it's the same. Maybe it's the same for the Ubiquiti stuff then. I would happily say I'm wrong, but it feels weird because typically it's at least called out. We can all agree with that. Anyway, I think that we have hit that time again, friends. I want to go ahead and say remove and put me back there. All right, so we did it. We made it there. I appreciate you guys hanging out and spending time with me on a Tuesday. We will be back next week like normal. In the meantime, I'm going to say it again. Join our Discord. That's where all the cool people are. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Good opportunity. I also, as an aside, if you join, you can hop into the chat and everybody can talk over each other for 45 minutes afterwards, because I like to hang out and actually like have bi-directional conversations. Thank you, Adam. Thank you, Terry. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, everybody. And we'll hope to see you again next week. You guys, have a good one. Cheers.